Vince Coleman was a truly elite base runner. He was the last player to steal 100 bases in a season. He was the last player to steal 100 bases or more in 3 consecutive seasons. He was the last player to lead his league in steals for 6 consecutive seasons. And he's the only player to ever steal 50 consecutive bases before being caught. Was he a perfect human being? No. Not every Cardinal can be Stan Musial. But for a period of time, he was as electric as anyone in the game. In the 1980s, we were blessed to have 2 really special base runners, Rickey Henderson in the American League and Vince Coleman in the National League. The game has never seen 2 such truly elite runners playing at the same time. Rickey, we all know, is in a class by himself. The Man of Steel defied all laws of aging by playing 25 years and leading the league in stolen bases at age 39. He really was what he said he was.
Today, I'm the greatest of all time. Thank you.
But there was a period of time when Vince Coleman looked like he might challenge Rickey for any and all stolen base records. He burst into the league in 1985 when Cardinals left fielder Willie McGee got hurt. Manager Whitey Herzog explained to Coleman that he was being called up temporarily, just for a few games to fill in the gap, and that he would be sent back down when McGee returned. The Cardinals believed that Vince needed more seasoning in the minors, and they wanted to set the expectation to soften the eventual blow. But Vince, well, he had other plans. In his first game, he was 1 for 3 with a walk and 2 stolen bases. Then, 3 days later, he was 2 for 3 with 2 walks and 3 stolen bases. By the end of 2 weeks, he had stolen 12 bases and was hitting .300 as the leadoff hitter. He was here to stay. Vince would go on to steal 110 bases in 1985 and was voted unanimously as Rookie of the Year. He stole more bags in 1985 than the entire Chicago White Sox team, and the Angels, and the Giants, and the Astros. Oh yeah, and the Mariners, Tigers, Braves, Orioles, Brewers, Twins, Red Sox, and Padres. Yeah, he was that good. It was the first time a National Leaguer stole 100 bags since another Cardinal had done it more than a decade earlier, the great Lou Brock. As I said at the beginning, Vince stole 100 or more bags for 3 consecutive seasons, and Rickey never did that. Lou Brock never did that. In fact, only one other man in history has done it, Billy Hamilton. No, not that Billy Hamilton, this Billy Hamilton. He stole 111, 102, and 111 between 1889 and 1891. Here's an interesting fact that I uncovered. Vince set a minor league record by stealing 145 bags for the Macon Redbirds in 1983. Guess who beat his record? It was Billy Hamilton. No, not that Billy Hamilton, this Billy Hamilton. This version of Billy Hamilton stole 155 bases in 2012 for the Pensacola Blue Wahoos and Bakersfield Blaze in the Reds organization. That's just, I don't know, crazy. Billy's problem was that old adage that you can't steal first base. And once he was in the big leagues, he struggled to get on base. And now, a word from our sponsor. New for 1987, the Mizuno cleats worn by Vince Coleman and Rickey Henderson. Do you want to steal bases like the best? Well, get your Mizuno cleats today. Vince Coleman says,
"When speed matters, nothing compares to Mizuno. They have cleats for artificial turf and real grass, too. I like mine in Cardinal Red."
Rickey Henderson says,
"Rickey likes Mizuno. Rickey tried other cleats, but Rickey's faster in Mizunos. Rickey thinks Mizuno cleats are the greatest of all time."
Get yours today. Available at your local sports authority. Mizuno USA, Peachtree Corners, Georgia. And now, back to the program. I asked my buddy John to join me on StreamYard for this video. John is a lifelong Cardinals fan. We've been friends for years, and anytime I have a question related to the Cardinals, I go to him. He's the same age as me, so we were both teenagers during Coleman's incredible run in St. Louis. Here's John discussing the Cardinals of that era and Vince's legacy in St. Louis.
They obviously had some early success in '82, so that the city was on fire after coming out of the '70s, and just the only thing and the tail end was just celebrating Lou Brock, my first Cardinal hero. So the 80s were exciting, coming into that 85 season. I know 84 was kind of brutal. We had finished third. I think the Mets had won the division in 84. The Cardinals had traded like one of my favorite players, George Hendrick. Silent George was, always solid. But they got John Tudor out of that trade. And then they made a big trade, I believe, was that in February? So they got Jack Clark. That team was based on speed. There wasn't a lot of home run hitters in 84, so they traded, a couple guys so that they could get their power hitting first baseman. Um, so coming into that season, they had really built a very good team to go into it. So, everybody, there was a buzz in 1985. To your point,
Mhm.
you know, I consumed a lot of the Cardinals on KMOX radio, sitting in the driveway,
Mm.
listening to Jack and Mike Shannon. So, we watched them obviously, but that was a lot of just playing in the front yard, listening to them. And my dad, it was interesting. He didn't really like crowds, so we didn't go to a lot of games live. But if a game was interesting, Busch Stadium, they would open their gates in the seventh inning. So if a game was good in the sixth inning, we'd hop in the big green, monster station wagon and drive it there and then go into the game. So we would just find, either we'd standing room only or find some empty seats and we'd, watch the tail end of some of those games. So I did get to, watch some of those games that way, which was very cool.
So we've established that you're a giant St. Louis fan. Behind you is a wall of all Bob Gibson memorabilia. You're a super collector of Bob Gibson. Um, so what is Vince Coleman's legacy in St. Louis? Do people remember him in a positive light? Obviously, his years in St. Louis were incredible, record-breaking. But he had, issues later in his career. Is he still thought of as a hero locally, or what?
Oh yes, absolutely. I think the things that happened outside of St. Louis. So everybody has great memories of Vince. I mean,
Mhm.
he came in '85. He wasn't even supposed to be on the team.
Mhm.
I believe what happened was Tito Landrum and Willie both got hurt at the beginning of the season. He came in, and I think Dale Maxwell. I think he told him, "Listen, you're not going to be here.
Mhm.
You're only going to be here for a little while." And he told him, "Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, but I'm going to be here for the whole season, and not so many words." And sure enough, he got up here and just lit it on fire and made his name. And I know you're going to go through all the stats. So obviously, he lit the world on fire with his steals. Was the catalyst, batting number one for the team. Got Rookie of the Year right out of the gate unanimously. That stadium was built for Vince Coleman, and that team for Whitey Ball. Um, that team was barely hit any home runs. They were all speed and defense. Um, and he was amazing. He went into the Cardinals Hall of Fame in 2018, and that's fan base voted. So he went in and before a lot of other guys. He actually went in with, I think, Ray Lankford, another Cardinal great. They were teammates. So he's well thought of. I mean, he had great years from 85 to, 1990 before he signed that free agent contract with the Mets. And then that's where things happened that it was almost like, kind of out of sight, out of mind. So, he's very well thought of in St. Louis. His legacy is very solid here. So, I mean, when you sign a $11 million contract and you're in New York in the '90s, I'm sure I would get in trouble as well and be a jackass. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. I thank God that cell phones and things like that didn't
Hmm.
exist when I was
Yeah. I went back
young
and
and
just
stupid.
just out of curiosity, because I'm a numbers dweeb, I went back and
Mhm.
said, what is $11 million over four? What's $11 million
Mhm.
for 4 years? and it's like the equivalent of $26 million today. So, and you're in a city that never sleeps. In the Mets, I mean, those
They were
guys
wild.
they were insane before he even got there.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think you were talking about Vince wasn't exactly the leader in the clubhouse. So those veterans got to him, and he probably just was like, all right, let's go, follow, more of a follower than a leader, and probably got into a little bit of trouble not thinking, or you're going from St. Louis, which is pretty mellow compared to New York. Probably a pretty big culture shock as well.
It's probably in hindsight, the worst environment he could have gone to. I mean, those Mets, they partied hard, and
right.
To your point, New York City, and he's rich, he's tons of money, young guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The world was his oyster.
The fans would like to know, what's your most memorable steal of all times?
That would have to be the one I made last Thursday.
But you didn't get a steal in that game.
What game? I'm talking about the steal I made on this Panasonic big screen television at Leonard's TV.
That's right. You don't have to be Vince Coleman to get a major league deal on a big screen TV. Just come and see your Uncle Leonard, then you can be like Vince and watch all the great plays at home.
That's right. You tell him, Coach.
You'll save big when you buy from Uncle Leonard. Call 389-0700.
Vince never did win a World Series, but he was part of 2 pennant-winning clubs on the Cardinals. In 1985, he was famously injured in the NLCS when a tarp rolled over his leg. It kept him out of the World Series, and it most likely cost St. Louis the championship.
The League Championship Series has moved from the American side to the Western Kansas City on I-70 to here to Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and 53,000 fans, a sellout to see the Cardinals and Dodgers in Game 4. Hello, everyone. I'm Dick Enberg. It's a beautiful early evening, temperature in the 60s. It's a cloudless sky, but it wasn't that way earlier this afternoon, and the rains that fell created a freak accident involving Vince Coleman, the star rookie outfielder of the St. Louis Cardinals. 110 stolen bases. They had started batting practice. Coleman did not see this automatic roller coming up from behind him. His leg was caught underneath it. He was trapped, screaming in pain and fear. Dodger bat boy had this report.
Vince Coleman, he was looking towards the home plate area away from the tarp, and it started rolling up, and I saw it catch his foot, and he tried to step back with his right. He fell down and just rolled up over above his knee.
Let's go. They carried Coleman off, the teammates of Vince Coleman, and at that time they didn't know if that was his entire career. What was the damage? We're pleased to report there were no fractures. They've taken x-rays. It is a seriously bruised ankle. He will not play tonight. Tito Landrum will replace him in the lineup. Willie McGee will move into the leadoff spot. And they say it's possible that Coleman might even play in game.
So that team lost in the World Series. Was that to the Royals?
Oh yeah, that's the infamous 1985 Don Dinkicher series. We were up 1-0 in the 9th, and he made that famous call. I think it was Ortega, safe call when he was out. We went on and lost Game 6. In today's world, that replay, he would have been out. We would have won the World Series. And then in Game 7, we went and lost 11-0. Never got over the hump of that call. What's crazy about that whole series? 1985. It's called the I-70 series, or the Show Me State series, because it was the first time that Kansas City and St. Louis had played. Back then, you didn't have all the wild cards. You only had the NLCS and the World Series. Yeah, the 85 World Series was a heartbreaker. I mean, it's something that people don't really like to discuss. If you go to Kansas City and watch a game, they love to bring that up. Obviously.
It totally slipped my mind that Kansas City Royals were right across from you. It just didn't even click with me. So, I could see how that was a blood battle.
But even to get there, we played the Dodgers, and Game 1, Fernando won that game. Hershiser won Game 2, And, to win it, game 5, Ozzie Smith hits the home run that, with Jack Buck, with the go crazy, folks, go crazy call, which still get goosebumps even talking about it.
And a runner at third, nobody out in the first and didn't score. Second and third, one out in the second and didn't score. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run, and the Cardinals have won the game.
And then game 6, same pitcher for the Dodgers gives up Jack Clark's home run, which I didn't go back. There's a backstory on all that. He, said, I think he called him the B word, or he was going to do something where he was like saying, hey, just get me up there and I'm going to crank a home run. And sure enough, he did. And just totally gestured to the Cardinals dugout like, hey, I told you, MFers, I was going to do that. So
wow.
It was a very fueled series to get to that World Series in '85. So, and then also the infamous, during that series, I think before game 4, we're here to talk about Vince Coleman. That's when he got hurt. So the whole tarp incident, they brought the tarp out. And he got stuck underneath the tarp and hurt his leg and his knee, and he was done, which he was our leadoff hitter. He was the catalyst for that team, and losing him after that, you could make the case that losing him leading off going into the World Series, that kind of, even though it was so close to winning the World Series, that really cost them a legitimate shot, even though we were so close to winning it anyway.
And now, a word from our sponsor. New for 1989, the starting lineup Sports Superstar Collectible. That's right, get your officially licensed MLB action figure today. Each figure comes with a starting lineup baseball card featuring statistics on the back and a full-color action image on the front. Here is Vince Coleman of the Cardinals, one of 9 Cardinals available from Kenner. Collect them all and trade with your friends. Each team has 6 or more unique figures. Well, except for the Canadian teams. They each get 1. But yeah, collect them all. The starting lineup figures are sure to be a hit with boys of all ages. Cut out the stand on the back to display your starting lineup collector card. Ages 4 and up. Brought to you by Kenner Parker Toys Incorporated, Cincinnati, Ohio. And now back to the program. After 6 years in St. Louis, Vince went to New York and was never really able to repeat what he had done with the Cardinals. He had trouble staying on the field with various injuries, and he had trouble off the field, which I suspect impacted his game. He played for 5 different teams in his last 5 years before finally being released at the age of 35. Whitey Herzog loved Vince but said he was a bit of a follower. In the Cardinals organization, he was tutored by men with incredible work ethics like Ozzie Smith and Willie McGee. When Vince took more money to go to the Mets, he would lose the steady hand of Herzog and play for 4 different managers in New York in 3 years. He clashed with Mets manager Bud Harrelson and is believed to be the primary reason that Harrelson got fired when he went into an obscenity-laden tirade directed at Mike Cubbage. The following year, he was openly subordinate and shoved new manager Jeff Torborg. He was confrontational and made enemies with the New York press, which is never a great idea. He got involved in a sex scandal alongside Dwight Gooden and a woman that was dating David Cohn, and then he really got himself into legal trouble when he threw an M100 out the window of a car towards a group of fans. The M100, which is much more explosive than the more common M80, injured multiple people, including a 2-year-old girl who suffered a laceration on her eye. Vince would be arrested and charged with possession of an explosive device. He made a plea deal and received community service and 3 years probation. His time in New York was really damaging to his reputation. The Mets would deal him to Kansas City for 1994. Still, never one to doubt himself, Vince was sure he had a lot more to achieve. He was wrong. The final 4 seasons of his career would be worth negative 1.8 WAR, he was never able to duplicate any of the success he had playing for Herzog in St. Louis. Whitey was the right manager for Vince. He really understood his psyche and knew how to get the best from him. When Vince won Rookie of the Year, Whitey won Manager of the Year.
Whitey came over from Kansas City, and when he came over, he was the manager and the GM. So he built his own team, and he built it really well. He traded Gary Templeton and got Ozzie Smith. He brought in a bunch of speed guys, and that '85 team, you can tell he went out and got a little power Jack Clark. He got Tudor. During the season, he went and he got Cesar Cedeno, who tore it up when he came in for the tail end of that season. Some of the aged guys who were there in '82, he moved them out. And you had mentioned earlier, Willie McGee had his best season of his year, MVP season. Ozzie was on fire. I went back and I didn't realize Tommy Herr had one of his best seasons. He had a crazy season, and what's wild is that the guy who usually hit for average, Terry Pendleton, he only hit 240 that year. But then you brought Vince in with his 100 steals. Willie came back, had his MVP season. Tommy Herr had a great season. So, but the pitching, Tudor came in, had an amazing season. You still had Joaquin Andujar. I want to say Danny Cox had a great season as well. And you didn't even have Bruce Sutter then. So I think Jeff Leahy, that bullpen was him. I think, did you have John Daly? Todd Worrell was just kind of coming up. So you had a bunch of, you didn't have the firemen that, Whitey always used to have, Bruce Sutter and those guys. So they just had a really, really solid, rotation, and just the speed on that team was just amazing. I think they stole 315 bases total or something crazy like that. So it was an amazing season.
Whitey is going to give us a little clinic on some of his secret baseball tactics.
It's just coaching, Jack.
How to pick up the signs.
You got nobody out and a man on first. Let me use this cold bush beer here for the batter. Now, if I only need one run, I'm going to give him this.
That's the bunt sign.
If I need a bunch of runs, I may give him this.
That's the hit and run.
You've got it, Jack.
No, Whitey, you've got it. That's my bush.
You know what this is? That is the take sign.
Before Vince Coleman's MLB career, where he totaled 752 career stolen bases, he established a legacy of sorts on the gridiron. Vince played a pivotal role in what I would have to believe is the most significant win in Florida A&M's football history. He didn't receive a scholarship out of high school, but joined the team as a walk-on. The small Division II HBCU squared off against the big bad Miami Hurricanes in 1979. Vince kicked a game-winning field goal, beating Howard Schnellenberger's team 16-13. He was a good punter, averaging over 42 yards per punt in his last 2 years, while also hitting .426 on the baseball team his senior year. That final season at Florida A&M, the team only played 20 games due to weather. He stole 34 bags. He stole 7 in just one game. His speed was enough for the Washington Redskins to extend an invite to try out as a wide receiver. John and I talked a bit about Vince's football career.
One of his cousins had played in the NFL. He was a punter for 12 years. So he punted and kicked. And then the thing that blew me away was that he had a 34-yard field goal to beat the Miami Hurricanes. The fact that he had done that just shows you the athleticism. Yeah. He's a switch hitter. He's got crazy speed, world-class speed. And the fact that the Redskins kind of signed him and brought him in to kick and then said, hey, why don't you play wide receiver? And he's like, nah, I'm done. Smart guy. He's like, I'm here to kick. You want to hit me? Yeah. No, I'll go play baseball. Kind of cracks me up, because that being around football and knowing that wasn't his career course is pretty wild. So,
So
it
you-
ended up, I guess the same year the Cardinals had drafted him in like the 10th round.
It's a celebration.
As Zach Petrillo documented in Vince's Sabre biography, Vince was part of one more record. And this one I can pretty much guarantee you will never be broken. On June 1, 1986, Cincinnati Reds pitcher Chris Walsh walked Coleman in the first inning. He then proceeded to throw over to first for a pickoff attempt. Then again, and again. He threw over 17 times. Finally, he threw a pitch. And of course, Vince stole second base. Then he stole third base. Vince Coleman was inducted into the Florida A&M Hall of Fame in '93, the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame in 2016, and the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame in 2018.
Roger Craig threw over there 14 consecutive times once. There goes Coleman. The pitch is a strike, and it's a stolen base. And the count is 2-2 as Coleman swipes his third, giving him 27. Well, he won the battle, didn't he? Whew.
Glad that's over.
It's like having a root canal.
I'll leave you with a clip of Vince in a locker room celebration at the height of his career in 1987. I would think that this is how he would want people to remember him.
As you might expect, for being the National League East champions, they're having quite a celebration now. The best in the world, right?
We got an all-star at every position. Jack Clark, Tommy Hurd, Ozzie Smith, Terry Pendleton, Willie McGee, Tony Pigeon. What else you want to know? I want to know how he Hey, everybody dress at 6 o'clock.
One serious comment.
What?
One serious
what you
comment.
Want to know?
The Cardinals.
Excuse me.
The Cardinals had so many injuries this year. So much adversity to overcome. It's really a credit to the character of this ball club, the way they bounce back time and again from all the injuries.
We bounce back and we play consistent baseball. I think that's the most important word associated with the game right now. I mean, you know, when you have guys coming off the bench and being consistent every day, I mean, we post consistency in offense and pitching and relief pitching and defense. And when you have those categories, you know, that's what it's going to take to win a championship.
Okay, while the Cardinals reload, we're going to pitch it back to the studio. I'll be back later on in sports, a little drier. Reporting live from a very soggy locker room. Art Holiday, Channel 5, Eyewitness Sports.
Oh.
They just can't coexist without wrestling. I mean, she was stopping and then he started it again and then he tries to get away. Oh my goodness.